gonna buy this. I'm gonna.
Welcome to the European Ham Radio Show, where we're your professionals as always, and forget to start the intro. But we're here now, and I hope you guys caught that. It's Sunday, and we're, I guess, short. So we'll just hope that Carlos remembers and jumps on the stream, literally speaking. So
shoots in, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. But if not, we'll make it a good stream nonetheless. So, and then we'll try to get Carlos on at some other time. Let's just start with the ham radio moment of the week. Temporarily, Walt, what's your ham radio moment of the week?
There's so many of them, but if we're going to go short here, what I'll say is about 2 hours ago, there was this guy on YouTube Live. His name was Walt, and he was streaming his contacts live. So I made contact with Walt, and it was really cool because Walt made contact with temporary Walt. But if I had to be honest with it, the reason it was so interesting and unique is I cheated on how I made contact with Walt. And actually, it's a really good concept. So something I'll probably make a video on later in the week.
And that's listening to the YouTube audio?
No, I didn't listen to the YouTube audio. I hate when people do that because there's like a 12-second delay. And I'm like, okay.
If you want to do wall to Walt, you have to WhatsApp a Walt. Maybe something like that.
I channeled my inner Walt, and that's why I'm temporarily Walt.
Oh, I am now I can see you guys again because I was moving the wrong window across screens here. But that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that video, and I have a feeling on what you did, but I'm not going to tell anyone. They have to experience that for themselves. Tobias, any ham radio this week?
Yes, I finally made it to my autumn vacation, so I spent all day yesterday in the shack playing radio, or rather updating my Zoo of Ham Radio application. If you want to embiggen me for a second.
I am going to do that.
This is what you collect over the time, all the ham radio applications, and they were all out of date, so that was a bit of work, but now I'm ready to roll again.
That is good. That is good. But no radio then, only updating.
I played a bit of FT4 and FT8, but that doesn't really count, does it?
That is real radio, as real as any radio.
And I keep playing with my Morse code pedal. So
you're having quite the CW journey at the moment, Tobias.
Yeah, I try to make it a habit of at least getting 15 minutes, 13 minutes CW into my day, because I know how I am. When I stop now, then it will disappear for months. Yeah, so I have to keep going.
Are you at the point now where you could actually, instead of practicing just copying, just do one QSO a day? You think just answer someone calling CQ?
Yeah, I'm still pedal shy. Yeah, but I think in theory I can do it because all the tools have a built-in decoder. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I can. I get the call sign, and everything else is easy to pick up, like 599 and thank you and my name is and so on. That it's always the same tokens basically. Yeah. So
it could be one way of at least alternating, doing that instead of just practicing copying. I think this is coming from me that's unable to do any of this, of course. But if I had your skill level, that's what I would head next, I think.
Yeah, I can give. I have a bit of a problem with. I'm keying here with iambic A, and I have a bit of a problem with a few characters that end with a dit, like the N. I'm always making it either it makes a T or it makes a M. So sometimes it doesn't pick up the dit. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong or if it's just some mechanics here that needs adjusting. But yeah, I'm fighting a bit here. But anyway, it's good fun.
Awesome, and it's exciting to see your journey there, though. And I would guess hunting POTA would be an option. Being able to have that, I mean, that's a pretty standard exchange. There's nothing out of the ordinary when doing POTA.
Yeah, and you can also program a few macros into your QMX or into your, like, hello, my name is, and maybe the park number and so on. You can prepare that in advance, so you can really make your life a bit easier to get over the hurdle, I mean, basically you need to copy the call sign, the other party's call sign, yeah, and everything else you can more or less automate, you just give him a 599, give him the name, the park number, job done, yeah. So in theory, you should be able to do QSOs.
Awesome. But that sounds it's going to be interesting to see how this goes, Tobias. Kjetil, how has your ham radio week been? Any moments to talk about?
Yeah, it's been really quiet. I've done one activation, which was a POTA yesterday, which was a beautiful day out on the beach. I managed to get sand in the USB-C charging port of my laptop. And the previous laptop I had that had like the big Lenovo style chargers, which like it was really easy to clean off sand. USB-C is not really easy to clean from sand, but I did get some input from some of you guys on places I could buy decent cleaning tools on before stream here. So I'm gonna try that. And hopefully just look in your affiliate links within a few days, Morten or Walt, and see what I buy.
We've heard about your AliExpress search history there, but we're not going to mention that on stream because we're just not going to mention that on stream, I think.
I think you already did, but all right.
Yeah, most of what I see, what I've done this week has been making a racetrack for small robot cars for a convention thing at work, and programming them, which has been like with a BBC Micro and some other stuff, which has been really cool. It's fun to play around with that kind of small electronics and toys again. And that's been my non-ham radio week, to say it that way.
I just need to inject now. I can see that temporarily Walt is now temporarily offline Walt.
Yeah, it says it's going to be back in 2 seconds, and that was a minute ago.
So you did a POTA yesterday, didn't you, Kjetil?
Yes, I did.
Except for sand in your USB-C port, how did it go?
It actually went really well. I was out midday, so before that blackout. So I sat down at the beach with a sloper antenna and ran 10 watts from a 6100. I think it was 15 QSOs, 2 stateside over on 12 meters FT8, I think it was. So that was quite nice. Otherwise, mostly European stations.
That is really nice, and sounds you had a good POTA experience. We're going to talk about something else when we get to my moment. Bob, have you had any ham radio moments worth mentioning?
Yeah, I've been out sick most of the week. I didn't get to go to my Summits meetup. So, but what I have been doing is digging into APRS. I'm on a sort of an APRS trip. Let's see, maybe I can share something here. Share a screen. There are many screens to share. So let's start with this one, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, there's much to tell, really, but I was watching some YouTube videos by Modern Ham, I think is the channel is called, and he led me onto a Windows application that you can use. Can I switch this window, or do I need to stop sharing? I need to stop sharing, I think. I'll share another window as well. That was the APRS IS, the APRS internet system. You can connect to that, and you can set filters, and you get to see all the packets, APRS packets that interest you, that matches the filter you set. So that was what's rolling across the screen there. I'll try and share something a bit more interesting, which would be a map. Where might that be? All right, there we go. Yep, this one. Let's see. Yep. This is listening, just listening on RF for APRS packets and plotting them on the map. And you can do all sorts of cool stuff. You can message these units. You can track them. Yeah. This is all going through a Direwolf TNC set up on a Raspberry Pi and connected to the 705, which I've now put in another room. So starting to get a bit of a better idea of how APRS works. And I tried something I'd wanted to do for a very long time today, which is basically sending an APRS packet with a dedicated hard-coded path. So I picked 3 digipeaters and I put them in the path line instead of wide 2-1, wide 1-1, and just observed the packet taking that predetermined route through the APRS system on RF, not on the internet, on the internet information system part of it, which is pretty damn cool. The theory there is that you can have fun and you can construct a packet that will go in a loop, maybe across the country, and come back to yourself via digipeaters. So that's my hope, to be able to do that. I just need to figure out where the good digipeaters are and how they connect to each other.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was more than a moment, I think, but that's all the radio I've been able to do this week, being out with probably COVID again. So, yeah.
Well, that is good. My moment of the week, I've suffered from terrible field day ham radio burnout this week. So I've barely been on the radio until actually, well, yesterday I filmed the video. But besides that, I went out today for PODA. Bands were so. Went everywhere from having a station from Kentucky in 5.9 to not hearing anyone for 15 minutes, but I managed to get the activation done and get a 3 for. But that's not the ham radio moment of the week, though. The ham radio moment of the week is, and I'm just going to find the right tab here. If you take a look at this picture, and can anyone tell me what's so special about this picture?
It's magical. Oh,
No, it's there's nothing magical about it.
40-meter SSB to the States?
It's 40 meters SSB with an American station in Massachusetts.
That's nice.
That is nice. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Sean, but that's outside the sideband segment of 40 meters for you guys in the US, isn't it?
it was really weird because I had my mute on and you still heard me when I said it was magical. No, that's
It's not?
actually, that's if you're an extra, I think that's okay. But let me confirm that real quick.
Yep.
While he confirms that, I will say I have the tools open. So if anyone wants to try and send an APRS message to LB5JJ S-15, you can do that, and I can relay the contents in the chat. That would be kind of fun. So
That
I'll
would
try
be
to keep an eye out for messages coming in over RF. So
Awesome. But this is the
Yeah,
first time.
That's
Yeah, go ahead,
legit.
Sean.
So if
That's
you're
legit.
if you're a
Yep.
general, the general portion of voice starts at 7.125.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
when I
an
turn,
extra. Did I say general? Extra.
you said general, but extra is probably correct. When I turned on the radio yesterday morning, 40 meters was from edge to edge, full of US stations calling CQ Europe on
Yeah.
40.
It's a big contest weekend, you know.
Yeah, but still, I've never heard US sideband stations, and I can actually flip this microphone up now because I'm not using this microphone. Hopefully, I'm not. But I've never had a QSO on sideband on 40 meters with a US station, and he was a real 5.9, so that was awesome.
Just wait until you get to do 80 and 160 on sideband over there. Those are fun.
Have you ever done an 80-meter
Yep.
statesides on with how much power?
We have a limit,
Yeah, I know there's a limit. And so you ran Italian QRP then?
No, that was Norwegian full limit. Contest station over at LA Fort Charlie. And
Yep.
we have a dipole there for 80 meters and a loop for 160. And those are epic for running over to the States. It's not common, but they pop up. But that's under the big contests, and usually it's with people with like was it the Whiskey Trail Station or whatever in Norway, that level of antennas on their end.
I am suspecting that all the Americans that I heard were doing the heavy lifting, but that was a fantastic experience, though, and I'm hoping I can get to do that again.
Yeah, it's really cool when you get to do those stations you never run on the band before, or countries you never ran on the band before, or whatever. That's always cool.
It is almost like that 11-year-old we had on 40 or on field day. I'm reading your private chat at the same time, Sean. That's not a good combination. The 11-year-old we had on field day that also had a US contact on 40 meters. I mean, that's fantastic. So we'll see and hope that Carlos shows up. If not, we'll talk about something else. I don't think anyone here are qualified to talk about being parachute mobile. So if you have any questions for us, post them in the chat, and we'll make this we'll make this show go nonetheless.
Yeah, I can see that Jürgen here has ran Hawaii on 160. I would guess that's then from Austria, which is kind of epic.
That is epic. But then again, this part of the solar cycle is probably not the best part to do those DX on the lower bands, though.
No, they're more for the other ones. But did any of you do radio today?
I did.
You went out, Morten? Yeah.
Yeah, I went out today.
How were the bands?
They were, let's call them up and down. I went from nothing to a 5 and 9 from Kentucky, to nothing to a 4x3 from somewhere in Europe, to nothing to a 5 and 9 plus from Jürgen. So it was so. But I heard Echo Alpha 2 Delta Tango. He was out doing a Summit in a Parks activation, and he actually had a QSO with a VK station.
Nice. Yeah, I'm sharing the graphs here from the NOAA thing, and this is the major one we had yesterday, that X-ray flare. You can see there's been quite a few small peaks today as well, up and down, and kind of interesting to follow this graph here, and also here the proton flux. And I heard something about sometimes the conditions go really good before the big storms hit, and we're going to see tomorrow how bad it is. I think here I see roughly midday it's going to be a G3, which is really sad because all of the good aurora is going to be then, and we can't see it. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's been some epic days for the people that have been delazing enough to go outside and get photos.
I can't really understand why people are so excited about aurora. It kills radio.
Yeah, but it's beautiful.
It is. Abe here's got a question. If any of us YouTubers have any tricks for getting antenna wires to show up in videos?
Sure. Here you go. Let me share a screen here. I created this thing a couple weeks ago as an insulator for a dipole, and I was just messing around. But, I mean, theoretically, if you're wanting to show where your wire is for demonstration purposes, you could easily fish that wire like this through that hole, and then like this in the other end too, so it stays right there, and you could actually see where the wire is. I guess that's good too, to reduce the potential for somebody walking through your site
Yep.
to run into your antenna wire. But that is
Um,
one possibility.
that is
I have-
one.
I have
Yeah,
a
go-
suggestion as well. If you do it after dark with a really thin wire and a kilowatt amplifier,
Yeah, that'll
that
do
thing's
it.
gonna light up like a light bulb.
Or Christmas is coming up, so use Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for my end, I use yellow wire, but basically because it's easier to see, and it was the only thing they had in stock. But I also have like neon orange guy wiring,
Yeah,
just to make it very visible.
I'm just going to show you my trick, and that's not necessarily for having it show up on video, but if the wires are low hanging close to, let's say, where people walk, and that's TEHRS 4671 fluorescent tape.
Yeah.
And
That's a
those
good
are
idea, yeah.
ridiculously expensive, but they're a lifesaver. And they're really good. You can write on them with a Sharpie. You can mark stuff with them. And I marked my kits with it, with what the contents of the bags and pouches and everything, and it sticks on. And this is really high visibility, and it's fluorescent. So even though there's not much light, you can still see the tape.
Yep.
While it's nice that the stuff shows up on video, it's even more important that the antenna wire is visible if it's somehow at chest height or neck height for people, you know, because they just keep cruising along with their bicycles at full speed, and not good.
Yeah, it never seems to fail that you'll be activating a park in the middle, 3,000 miles down a sandy beach where you haven't seen a person in 4 days, and all of a sudden somebody runs across it.
That is so typical. I had a guy come up to me while doing my POTA today, and I was running the Chinese GP2 vertical with a new ground radial disc that I'm going to show off in a couple of weeks on a video. But he came up to me. He had a pair of binoculars, and he asked, "Are you bird watching?" No. Okay. And then he just left.
He was looking for a bird watching buddy.
Probably, I would assume so. And then he ruined my outro 3 times by starting his car, driving away, coming back, opening his door, and being in the way pretty much all the
Are you
time.
sure you're not bird watching? Okay, I'll be back in 3 minutes to ask you again.
Yeah,
Bird watching?
I'll scare away all the birds. But I've had people like just walking as well, walking close to my antennas. The issue there is that no matter how visible you make the antenna, they will stop to stare at you and like what you are doing and ignore the orange thing in the air in front of them.
What's the? That's a great point, actually. You know,
But at least you can say, hey, it's high vis. You tripped over it despite it being high vis. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did anyone see yesterday's Ham Radio Crash Course stream? Josh talked about this, and he actually gave some advice, and that's be as high visibility as possible when activating, because then people will not come to bother you.
Yeah.
I would say that half of the community would be upset by that statement, because with Parks on the Air, we're supposed to be ambassadors to radio. But I could also see the reasoning why we would sometimes need to be secluded and to have fluorescence and, like, you know, try to deter people too. So it's a catch. You know, if you're wanting to attract people to get them on the air, maybe don't do those things. Yeah,
I always try to be as little visible as I can, but it's hard though. Echo Alpha 7 Lima Charlie Yankee. I'm sorry. I have noticed your mail. I haven't seen the video yet, but I will. So sorry about that. I'll get to it. I don't seem to have enough time for everything I need to and want to do at the moment, actually. But I'll take a look at it and I'll get back to you. Jeff says, talk and scream to yourself. People will think you're crazy and leave you alone.
Well, that gives a good question too, is for you all here watching and in the chat, what's the strangest thing that somebody has ever asked you while you were activating or set up ham radio to operate? Because typically here in the States, I'll give you an example. It's usually asking if we're speaking to Russia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that a lot. We
Yeah,
also in Norway we had a skit on TV about 2 gazillion years ago of a really obnoxious ham radio operator, and everyone will come by and ask if you're his call sign.
LA8 PV, Lima
Yeah.
Alpha 8 Papa Victor.
Yeah.
wow.
That never gets old.
No, that never get it out. And then people ask, are you talking to aliens? How many satellites can you reach with that?
Yeah.
But people are usually really nice though once you start explaining what it is.
Yes, and for many people it just sounds strange, but like it's we're supposed to be, as you said there, Sean. We're gonna be ambassadors and nice about this, but some people are just rude when they go around as well.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
So there are
I-
some people I just stare back at. Like if they stop and like obviously stare at me from a road nearby or something, then I'll just turn around and glare at them until they leave.
I usually smile and say hi, and then
There
people
is-
tend to go away.
Yeah.
Depends on the person and how they stare.
And I had one guy coming up to me once when I had that 17-foot whip on top of my car, and while I was setting up, he asked, "Oh, I bet you're gonna get France or Spain or something on that," real sarcastically, and I just said, "I surely hope so."
Yeah. I had a really nice chat with a guy, I think it was last weekend, who had been a comms officer in the army. And he'd been like an HF guy in the army as well. And as he said, then there they just learned how to mount the gear, not how it worked, just like this is how to use it. So he was really interested. And that's a good thing because that's somebody I may have lured to get back into the hobby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very
Absolutely.
Very good.
His wife was not as easily encouraged.
Uh,
When you say that about wives, because I will talk to anyone that drops by. I don't mind if they stare; they can do whatever. I'm just
Yeah.
fun. But often there are couples walking in the woods or in the mountains or whatever, and they stop and you talk to them and you explain what you do. And when you do, not always, but quite often, you see that you get the feeling that the guy, the male part of the couple, is jealous of you that gets to do this technical thing, and his better half or other half or the female half will just roll their eyes and have no idea how anyone can find that interesting. So,
Yeah, there's another option there is sometimes it's the guy is really interested, but he's too shy to go over and ask. So the girl goes over and asks instead because she's actually interested as well. So I've had quite a lot of those where it's actually the lady coming over and asking, and the guy just sitting far away and then getting it retold afterwards.
yeah,
And-
yeah,
and
that was an unfair thing to say from my part. Actually, there are women that are interested as well, but on average, I would say the men are more often interested in ham radio than females. It's probably about the same ratio as the interest in working on cars or other technical hobbies. So,
But I also do have to say, and if I could just interject for a moment, but I typically do agree with you. I've noticed probably in the last 3 months, without saying names or anything, of course, that the sales that I have, the amount of females has been increasing quite a bit. And now maybe they just found the sales page or whatever, but I think that that's a good indication that they're there, and maybe they're just not as expressive about it. Is that a good way to put it?
That is a good way. And I have another theory when it comes to Etsy, though. If you look at what kind of goods that are usually sold on Etsy,
Sure,
it's usually the wife that has the Etsy account.
yeah,
I mean, that's a fair point.
I was thinking the same thing, but then I was thinking going from buying jewelry, custom-made jewelry, to a little dude. That's a bit of a stretch. You have a serious shopping problem if you're not a ham radio operator and you buy that little dude.
You can get it all on Etsy, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe that's it. Maybe they bought a bunch of jewelry for themselves or whatever, and they're not hams. But then they realized, in order to hide all my jewelry and cool handmade stuff purchases, I better purchase a little dude for my husband who's getting into ham radio. So if that's the case, thank you very much.
That's good advice, actually.
Keep buying handmade stuff on Etsy and remember me,
But it's always fun when you look at those, and I mean, the same with and we're not going to out any people here, but if you look at what people buy through your affiliate links on different outlets, you can have some strange realizations there as well. Except for my audience, they only buy boring ham radio gear and keychains for the cars. I'm hoping for someone to really buy whatever shit that I was looking at before the show.
Now you make me look really bad.
I'm just taking a look at my portal. I'm kind of curious.
I'm going to say there's nothing wrong about it, but some kind of when you when you put in the wrong words, search results can go bonkers.
Yeah, and then they never go away either. It's like every time you log back onto LA Express, you're like, man.
I think it's fair to assume that if AliExpress tells you you have to be 18 to view this, do you want to continue? The safe answer is no. I'm not.
I thought it meant that to use a vacuum cleaner, you had to be 18.
Yeah.
and instead of vacuum cleaner, what word did you use?
It's something else.
Yeah.
But that was encouraged by you guys. So,
yeah, it was.
Don't put me into this.
Yeah, and
So,
this is the kind of talk which will lose us all female watchers on the show. So let's try to get back to normal.
We will.
Actually,
but
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Oh, I was actually going to change the topic a little bit and rescind my ham radio moment of the week and give you a better one. And this could actually be kind of cool because we were just talking about ambassadors to ham radio a few moments ago. And if I could share a story, like a few months ago, an old coworker of mine started kind of contacting me and asking me about radios. He was really intrigued about my Motorola XPR 7550E or whatever it is. And he kept coming by and I kept giving him more and more information. And it came to a point where last week, like, he knows what he wants for the most part. A waterproof radio that has digital capabilities and true APRS with USB-C. The problem is that radio just, all of his desires and needs just don't quite exist, but we can work around that. So I was like, well, maybe we should go up to Ham Radio Outlet in Milwaukee and you could ask them some questions. And no, I'm not going to, whatever. He was very appreciative of the offer and the assistance that I was able to give him because he felt intimidated by being at the store. And I'm not saying anything negative. It's just when you're a new ham, maybe you feel a little bit negative about being somewhere, right? Or a little bit out of place. So anyway, he finally did pick out his own radio. He went with the Yaesu FT5DR. After getting to compare some radios, that was what he decided that he wanted, and I think it'll be a good fit for him. Now, he's supposed to go take the test in a couple of days, so I'm really excited about it. I did ask him as well if he was going to have his female counterpart get interested in radio, and he said, I don't think that's going to happen. But it was, but to be fair and to go back to that was a really fun moment for me. To be able to go with somebody I worked with for so many years and I knew so well, and all of a sudden he's taking up this interest that I could assist with. It was a cool feeling. It was really cool.
It is, and it's. I mean, it's a great feeling when you're able to help people get licensed and advance in the hobby. And I guess we're kind of privileged. I guess we're probably the privileged part of the hobby because we stick our heads out there. We show our opinions publicly,
for better or worse.
Yep.
Yeah,
but
somebody actually gets feedback as well, I've heard.
What was the feedback I got today? It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, that's part of the hobby. And I signed up to be an Elmer for a local license course now. They haven't assigned me anyone yet, but if they do, I'll be sure to get that person through their license and be able to get licensed and give them some tips, because that's something that I kind of felt that I didn't have while getting licensed in 2020. Naturally enough, though, because you were pretty much stuck to yourself. But having, if I'd been able to see a shack and try a radio and experience ham radio, perhaps some of the bad choices I did starting out wouldn't have happened.
Like selling the G90?
That was perhaps that, or getting a Yaesu radio as my first HF rig.
How's that a bad idea?
The 450 isn't a bad radio though, but it showed its limitations pretty fast. Once I progressed in the hobby.
No tuner, right? No built-in tuner, and then
no.
There's
There's a tuner there,
Is
and
there?
I had the Yaesu, what's it called, SCU 17, the cat control Digimode interface.
Oh, cool.
So it was really good for Digimodes, but the lack of proper filtration was started to get bothersome. Let's put it that way. And then I did another mistake by buying a FTDX 1200.
Oh yeah.
There's I think I mentioned it before, but there's some nice Yaesu radios for sale close to here, and it's really interesting. It's two people selling them, two different sellers at Finn, and both of them have the same identical text. It's not the same radio, but like it's from Silent Key, of course. But it's apparently been tested by local ham, and the guy who sells it now has no idea about radio. The question is then, can you even test it when you get there? Like how would you go about testing a radio if you go up to somebody who doesn't know anything about it and want to buy it?
I'd bring at least a power meter and a dummy load.
Yeah.
And the IC705 to see if it does something. Maybe.
Yeah, bring another radio and perhaps two dummy loads, and you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just
dummy
to-
loads. That is well okay for 5 watts if you tune it down. Maybe, yeah. That's doable. You don't need two 100-watt dummy loads.
No, you don't. You can reduce the power, but just to see, and even a small dummy load can be good enough to push the radio and see if it actually does 100 watts out.
yeah.
Yeah, briefly.
And then,
yeah.
then there's always some amount of risk, but once you talk to people though that are selling stuff, and I would say this is a pick up in person kind of deal though. Once you talk to them, you can get a feel if anything happens, can I return the radio and all that. Any word from Carlos yet, Sean?
No word from Carlos yet, but interesting fact for you, since we're kind of playing it by the seat of our pants today, right? Earlier you mentioned the word Elmer, and do you know where the term Elmer came from?
I read that a couple of weeks back, but I can't remember it.
This was actually funny that you mentioned it, because he, in the car ride to Ham Radio Outlet, he had asked me, hey, where did Elmer come from? And I'm like, I don't know, Looney Tunes. Anyway, it turns out that the origin comes from the 1971 QST magazine article written by Rod Newkirk titled How's DX? And in the article, Newkirk laments that newcomers to amateur radio often don't have someone to help them learn the ropes. And he writes about the helplessness of older, experienced operators, and casually refers to one such mentor who had the name Elmer. Now you know.
That is
very
good
It was
information.
an actual Elmer. Very nice.
Quite. I've been wondering
up,
about
dog?
that many times.
No,
It's
not that
a strange word to put on something when you don't know the backstory. But yeah.
Yeah, I was
It
thinking,
is. But if you're new to ham radio and watching this, first of all, congratulations to you that have stuck with us for 40 minutes. But if so, and Elmer is just a ham radio mentor. It's someone that knows a little bit more or knows the ropes a little bit and can help you along in the hobby. And even if you're a seasoned ham radio operator, you still need your Elmers, because there's always something new to discover.
when I was at my first base in Europe, and I was pretty well what they would call high speed or whatever, they would frequently bring a brand new lieutenant to me and say, like, he needs to learn the ropes, or a sergeant who had just transferred, like, he needs to learn the ropes. And I would have a few days where I would get to teach them everything I knew about our particular job, which was kind of specific. And then, after a certain amount of time, you know, the Elmer has to take the step back and realize, like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about and he knows what he does, so I'm going to listen to him. You know, unless there's something that I still know that he doesn't. So I guess to compare it to them too, yeah, that's like a good life lesson altogether. Is like we could always Elmer people on the stuff that we know, even if it's just a little more than them. And then sometimes we recognize that it's good to take a backseat and learn, you know, from them.
Exactly. This hobby is about learning, and when you two hams get together, one of them knows something, the other one knows something, and if you exchange that information, I mean, people get better in the end.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you all the time, I don't know everything about everything, and I do get things wrong. I try to point it out when I do, but like, hey, that's part of the process of growing and learning. And I think a lot of people can learn, you know, from that, as long as you're not afraid to admit that you don't.
Exactly.
Know everything.
And I think for us at least, YouTube has been part of the ham radio journey for all of us 5 here. And I posted my first YouTube video when I've been a ham for 7 months. Looking back, that's incredibly stupid, but it was a way of showing the journey of actually learning stuff and picking up on different things. And I've never claimed to know everything. I'm not the smartest guy out there, but I'm not afraid to try new things either. So it's better to have the correct mindset than to know everything.
I think
As proven by my CW video, you can also make an idiot of yourself and people still like the video. So
Oh, exactly. Oh, absolutely. Because
I think-
people have been there before, Tobias.
Yeah.
Everyone has made a mistake in ham radio, and
Never.
the difference is that we show it on YouTube for a couple of hundred people every time.
I think it's a well-established fact that if you want to get a proper good grasp on something, then you need to explain it to others. So for me, explaining something that I've just picked up to someone else, that just enhances the learning experience and the knowledge of that topic. So I would say that not just in ham radio, but a lot of the topics on YouTube, a lot of the videos you see are made by people that have just discovered this new thing, and they're excited about it. And the process of making that video and explaining it to others, it's going to make them understand the subject matter even better. So, whoa.
Oh,
Yep.
we lost Sean, but he'll probably be back on.
But we see that from quite a lot of guys, new guys that come on YouTube, or they
Come on, let me do it.
they can do it.
Oh, okay, this is what happens when you have two moderators in the channel.
Yeah.
They see that with a lot of new hams. A lot of us like to share, and if it's there, or actually writing an article, or having a blog, like I think you started with, Bod, and something like that. Like it's a modern type of Elmering. When I started, the first thing I did was write an article in the bulletin, Norwegian bulletin. That was same as Morten a few months after, and then like it's part of like when you're learning and you're new and you're really like hyped up on this new hobby, you like sharing as well and showing off. At least some people do.
Yeah, and when the family don't want to listen, you can just turn on a camera and make a video instead.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think you all have a really good point. There was questions that while we were at the radio store, this gentleman was asking me, and he's done his research. He's been studying quite a bit. He's ready for the test, but he had some questions that even made me sit there and think for a minute, like, I never considered that. I'll probably make some short videos in the future, but like I never considered that. You know, we were talking about, well, what comes before HF, you know, and it's MF. What does MF mean? We don't talk about it too much, so we don't know it's medium frequency, and we make mistakes, and maybe we tell them it's something different, you know. But you know, I made sure to correct myself. But what I'm getting at is this guy with little knowledge is getting into the hobby, and he has all these questions, and some of them are so good that it makes me reevaluate my answer, go back to it, do the research, and find the answer. And now we both learned. I mean, that's amazing.
Exactly.
And
And
you
if
can-
you're
you can
trying
learn-
sometimes to make a video, you also have to do your own research, because you think, okay, I cannot just switch on the camera and tell complete utter garbage. Let me do some basic research at least to figure out if I'm completely wrong, or if my ideas make sense, right?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
100%.
And then you when you join a club, you kind of notice that perhaps the old timers don't really know computers as well as you do. They're not interested in necessarily having every kind of gizmo in the shack just talking seamlessly to each other. And perhaps you can learn them something. I'm doing a talk about remote ham radio in about a month, and honestly, after having the Flex for a couple of months, I still don't know what I'm doing. But I'm going to give some inspiration and try to sell this as an alternative for those that can't really have a radio at home.
Yeah, it's a great point. And yeah, maybe people will be like, well, why don't you do too many videos on your Flex radio? Well, there's a lot of good documentation out there that I can't do better than, but also B, there's so much with that radio to learn. It's kind of
there is,
overwhelming.
and Flex has extremely good documentation and extremely good YouTube videos on how to do pretty much anything on a Flex radio. So there's not really any reason for us YouTubers to do that, because they've actually taken that market away from us.
Yeah, more power to them though, because that shows their commitment to making sure their end user is going to be satisfied. If it's anything from because Flex radios, for example, utilize access points and wired or potentially wireless internet, if you will, or networking. And they have pretty much a solution for everything. If they don't, you go into their forums, and somebody's probably asked the question, and one of those moderators, it's a Victor Alpha call, I believe, has probably responded. It's absolutely amazing. Understanding the noise floor is a little bit different, as we both know.
Mike Walker, Victor Echo 3 MW, I think it is.
That sounds
He's also
about right.
He's also on the Ham Radio Workbench podcast, and he's got a really good presence everywhere in social media, and that just makes it so easy to find whatever you're wondering about. The only thing I haven't found an answer to, and that's probably because it's not possible with the Flex, is how to actually interface a tuner. And I don't think they're meant to interface with any tuners except for their own. So,
are you talking about remotely interfacing a tuner?
I'm talking about some kind of tuner control with an external tuner. So when I press the ATU button on the Maestro or in the app, the tuner actually, it sends a signal to the tuner and starts the tuning process. The tuner I'm using now does that through RF, but it's not bulletproof. And when you're doing something remotely, you really want it to be as bulletproof as possible.
Yeah, I'd be interested if it has something to do with those what I call RCA jacks in the back.
Is there an output for a tuner control on the back of the radio proper?
No, there's no port for tuner control.
So how does the Flex provided tuner get told to tune?
Network.
See, we're gonna Elmer each other right now.
Yeah, this is Elmering and really Elmering, and I can see now what the revised title and thumbnail of the stream will be.
Yeah, but you got me curious now. But you can't. You say it happens over the network. Does that mean you configure your Flex radio with the IP and a port number of the tuner?
Yep, exactly that.
Then you can create something with an ESP32 or something that will receive these signals and can interface to your tuner in whatever protocol your tuner speaks. This sounds like a fun project.
That protocol is not open though, and there is. I'm not really sure how that works, but those are two devices that are made to talk to each other seamlessly, and are app controlled. So you can check the status of the tuner, and if you have a flex amplifier, you have an app for that. And
Wireshark is your friend. You can reverse engineer everything.
Yes.
yes, you can. The question is, I prefer when people actually has done it, and not that it's possible to do it.
There's probably somebody
actually,
out there that has already programmed a Raspberry Pi or an ESP.
yeah,
with it.
but actually
Just have
using,
to find him.
yeah, using that MFJ tuner that I have on loan right now is pretty seamlessly though. I press the tune button on the MyStore or the Flex app, and it just sends a carrier out, and the tuner tunes 9 out of 10 times. And if it doesn't tune, I'll just switch the bands and go back to the first band again and tune, and then it tunes.
What does the Flex do when you push the tune button? Does it turn down to, let's say, 5 or 10 watts?
It turns down to however many watts you set it to, and sends a carrier.
All right.
Yeah, there was
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Hold on. That was it. Go ahead.
Oh
Sean.
yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, there's like a slider bar, and you could. I just turned on my Flex. You could basically adjust, like on that slider bar, how many watts you want your tuner to tune at.
Yeah, let's see if I can untangle my freehand camera here, and
Let's just wait. Don't
see
share
here.
that screen. Sorry.
and I'm gonna embiggen myself here. Let's see if I do like. Is that the right one? Is this? If I now press here, I can adjust the slider here on how much power goes when I press the tune button.
Nice.
Yeah, you got it.
Yep. And then that tunes this. That just sends a carrier to this tuner that has large enough relays to wake up the entire house.
That MFJ tuner, we were talking about this too, since this is an anything goes kind of stream. We were recently talking about that as well, and I won't ruin anything about your tuner, except I have an MFJ tuner, and I will stand by and stand firm that MFJ made some great tuners while they were in business. The MFJ 939 was the one I used for the Yaesu FT891, 991, and 897. Anyway, that's it. It will match better than a Shegu G90. It'll do like a 30 or 33 to 1 match.
Yeah, this tuner is insane, and it has so many memories. So once you've tuned a frequency once, and then it remembers different antennas as well. So once you've tuned that frequency once, it just says "grunk," and it's in tune.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're plugging tuners. I can plug my tuner as well. It was so good that I bought another one just to have for portable work. That's the CG3000 tuner. It's also a really, really wide range tuner, and it's quite inexpensive and waterproof. So you can put it at the feed point of the antenna where the tuner really should be. See, I got that in as well.
Yep, and I can actually put this tuner at the feed point, but I have not done that.
No.
Well, that's super nice. About
because this tuner is here in case. Well, it's for a couple of different things, but it's mainly for my Windham antenna for the bands that it shouldn't be able to work on, because that's my all band antenna. And then it's if I need a touch up on the NFET half wave on the upper bands, because it's not completely resonant on 15 and 10.
That's awesome.
So that's, and I see that William has the MFJ 949E, and I've had one of those as well.
I'm
so,
Googling it.
Yep.
M949?
949.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Yep. And speaking about MFJ, though, they made some good products, but it kind of mattered how, let's put this diplomatically, but how much the employees have had to drink the day before they went to work.
You
can have two identical products that one is working as it should be, and the other one is not completely good enough.
This is like British cars.
Yeah, it's exactly like British cars.
Yeah.
But British cars were mainly not good, though.
That just tells you that the Brits making them mostly went out drinking every night.
Yeah. I would say that the success rate of a MFJ product, it's way higher than with a British car from the 70s or 80s.
Yeah, it sounds like we're talking down British cars. I love British cars, by the way. I think the coolest car in the world is a short wheelbase Series 3 Land Rover. You have to really love working on cars to have that as a means of transportation, but it's the coolest car in the world.
My neighbor, he's in love with British cars, and he tried a Mercedes once for about 6 months, but the car didn't have any soul, so he traded it. And I just asked, was that because everything worked all the time? And he mumbled something about, yeah, that was it.
I saw a sign that you can buy at the Land Rover parts store. It says, "I would rather push a Land Rover than drive a Geländewagen."
But we're a bit outside the topic we never had now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh
So
boy.
back to parachuting. What is your opinion? No.
Yeah,
No,
so make sure you check the APRS, the flight schedules, the live time, and he'll be jumping around 15,000 feet. There you go.
But we got to get Carlos on at some other time, though. That is a stream I'd really wish to do for a while now. So, Carlos, when you see this, you're missed.
Yep.
And Abe's got a great comment here. But we made it through the stream nonetheless, though, and I think that's because it's ham radio. We always have opinions about something, and we got to talk a little bit about Elmering, which I thought was really good. And
Yeah, absolutely.
anyone can be an Elmer, whether you're new in the hobby or you've done the hobby you've been a ham operator for 53 years, which some of my emails says. And they're usually not the positive ones, but you can always be an Elmer and just be open-minded and have a learning mindset, and that can go a long way.
Yeah, maybe just one comment, because I had that thought recently when I watched our Discord, and then I'm thinking, okay, now imagine your daughter is watching the Discord channel, Morten, yeah? What would she say, yeah? So sometimes the comments are really a bit in the, old dad jokes category, yeah? I mean, we are always nice and it doesn't get too tasteless, but sometimes you think, yikes, you could scare away all the kids and all the girls with what's going on there.
That is an important point to make, though, because and I guess this is pretty much the same in any ham radio club in the world. But imagine being 18 years old or 16 years old and going into a ham radio club. It's going to be a scary experience for
I had that
kids to
years
do that.
ago, actually. I just remember because at some point I wanted to get into amateur television. Yeah, it was just analog at the time, and it's I think 23 centimeter or 13 centimeter. And I visited a local club who had a ATV meetup, and oh boy, that was a bit of an interesting experience. I mean, the guys were all nice, but I felt completely out of place with my, 18 or 19 years old. I can't remember. So
Yeah.
Exactly, and we've all been there at some point and in some hobby, and I guess that's something important to remember. And maybe the place for 17, 18, 19-year-old is not in your traditional ham radio club, but perhaps you should help them find a community that will work for them. And I certainly hope that the TEHRS Discord can be that, but let's be honest, we're mostly middle-aged men, so it's going to be somewhat of that atmosphere in there.
Well, but there's a difference between good dad jokes and unsuitable things. Like, for example, I don't know if any of you have ever used SSTV, but there's a reason I don't do that with Scouts, for example.
Right.
I got a QSL card today, which I would say it's totally unsuitable to send that kind of photos out.
Was
And,
that Russian guy over in Siberia that sits in a pool smoking a cigar?
No, this was an Oscar Echo station, I believe, a special event station. But never mind that. But in any case, it's think about like being ambassadors for the hobby, not only in the field but on the radio as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I think this is a hobby primarily of middle-aged men, and I think of course we're going to be, we should be polite, we should be including, but we shouldn't try too hard not to be ourselves just to make it easier for 16-year-olds to get into the hobby. That's
right, but we should at least stop the worst excesses to, you know, I mean, you don't want to make them turn around and run as fast as they can, right?
You know what? If they want to get into this hobby on a social level, you have to have a fairly high tolerance of dad humor.
Yeah,
it wouldn't help if we just held back for the first 5 minutes. That would just postpone them leaving for 5 minutes. And I'm not saying we should be impolite or inappropriate or anything, but I'm not going to stop being myself to make it easier.
No, that was also not the intention to say, you know, you should not, you know, hide your true self or so. But I mean, just keep in mind that not everybody is a middle-aged man, and how does it look for the others, right? I mean, just stop the worst tasteless jokes that you have and take the second worst.
I hope not. But basically what you're saying, Tobias, is just be yourself, just not too much.
Okay, that was also not what I wanted to say. Yeah,
or try to be inclusive and try to meet people at their level is probably what Tobias is saying, though. And
absolutely, but I think I can do that, and I think we can do that, even with all the dad jokes.
Yeah, let's put it this way, though. We're not necessarily, we don't appear the same person, let's say, at work, at a formal banquet, or at a party with a lot of alcohol with 40-year-old men. We tend to show different sides of our personality in those settings, and we can certainly not show the worst sides of our personality when trying to recruit new hams.
Yep,
that is true. But also, I would say that mostly we're not drunk at club meetings.
Mostly,
yeah,
except for field day.
There is that. Yeah.
And I guess on that note, as Jeremy Clarkson would say it, even though the Grand Tour and Top Gear is history now, see you next Sunday. We're going to have George over from Ham Radio Workbench, and he's going to talk about repeaters for people that don't know how a repeater works. And I'm guessing it's not any magic involved in it.
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little. There is some magic in ham radio. I'm sure about that. But anyway, see you next week. 7-3.
73.
Bye, guys.